Hey everybody, this is Vladimir Bosanets. I'm the co-founder and publisher of The Registry. Welcome back to the Real Perspectives podcast, joined today by my co-host, Rob Zirkle from Prince Street. Rob?
Morning, Vlad. How you doing today? Jake?
Doing well.
Morning.
Doing well, yeah. And then we're also joined today. We have a special guest, somebody have been very excited to actually have a conversation with, Jake Heller. He's a third-generation home builder and also developer. Who's had a hand in over 6,000 units, built across Southern California primarily. But these days, he's also doing something new. He's actually tested over 300 AI tools and has been looking for ways that most of them, how they could be integrated into the commercial real estate industry, and now has launched what he calls AI for CRE Collective. It's a community of brokers, developers, investors, and operators who share workflows, prompts, and tools that genuinely hold up to all the standards of folks in the real estate industry. It's now grown to hundreds of members in less than a year, and Jake sends a weekly newsletter and now has a database of over 600 AI tools that have specifically been vetted for this industry. So Jake, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, and I think you hit it all, whole background and everything. But I'm also a licensed broker. I'm a licensed contractor. So have definitely had my hand in several different areas in commercial real estate, but come from a legacy, old school home building family, and now operates as a family office. Funny, my dad is one of those who's still hesitant to this new technology, and so trying to show him the light, and he's seeing it slowly but surely, like many others. But it's an interesting and fun and exciting time, and excited to get.
Wonderful.
You're talking to a couple of dads, and we're excited.
Wonderful. So walk me through the kind of the moment that you realized maybe this was a couple of years ago, when AI was kind of rearing its interesting head, I guess maybe is the best way to say this, right? What was the sort of moment of kind of clarity that made you see that, wow, we can really do something here?
Yeah. So when ChatGPT first came about, I thought it was some of the most interesting thing. I was really excited about it. And growing up, I played a lot of video games. So for me, it was just somewhat addicting to get in there and just be able to use it in a way like we couldn't previously. And so it got a lot better. But around early last year, maybe middle of last year, my partner and I, we were just overwhelmed with the amount of AI content out there and what was happening. And thought that just there was nothing really specific to commercial real estate out there. And so the idea initially was just, hey, let's bring together some friends and colleagues in the industry, and we can collectively just talk about what's working and what are some of the interesting tools. And hey, here I used AI for underwriting and all that stuff. And so to our surprise, it really just spread like wildfire. People were really, really interested in the idea, and so we got serious about growing the platform. And today we consider ourselves one of the leading AI enablement platforms, specifically for commercial real estate. I always like to say just the unbiased source of truth, really at the intersection point of what I consider some of the greatest, most revolutionary technology ever, intersecting with one of the biggest industries out there, right? Like commercial real estate is over a $30 trillion industry. It is so massive. And so traditionally it's just lagged from a technological perspective, and things are changing rapidly. The way we do business, not just in commercial real estate, but everywhere, right? So super exciting. Didn't really have intentions of starting this and having it become a business by any means whatsoever. It was really just a way to stay up to date and keep our finger on the pulse with all this stuff. And so just to our surprise, here we are though.
Yeah. And you've tested, as I said in the intro, over 300 AI tools. One of the early findings that I think you discovered was that a lot of them gave you this kind of generic output, right? And so throughout that time, how did you come up with sort of what really worked, and how did you end up sifting through all that data and information to figure out, here are the ones that are really, really useful?
Yeah, and I think it's been over 300 at this point. And now that my partner's testing a lot of these tools too, combined, we're probably at like 600. But yeah, we have a database of about 710 as of today, all commercial real estate AI specific tools. Our goal is to demo every single one of them. Fortunately, now we're in a position where people building new tools, they'll come to us. Those who are interested in new tools will come to us. So we see a lot of stuff. We're seeing a lot of real estate operators, just to get off topic for a second, but build internal tools initially to help themselves. And what's happening is they're getting it to a point where it's becoming somewhat of a valuable tool, and the thinking is, hey, let's try and sell this to others, right? So we're seeing a lot of commercial real estate first operators with little to no technology or coding experience whatsoever build. A lot of them are ChatGPT wrappers, so little to no substance and not much of a moat involved. But these tools, which while they're missing a lot of the key kind of infrastructure and technology components, they are making up for it with a lot of the core real estate principles, which oftentimes prop tech was traditionally missing. Right? It was missing the real estate understanding. It was built by tech folk, and so oftentimes it really just didn't capture what real estate people need. So, but back to your original question, yeah, we've seen so much, and my thinking around it has changed quite a bit, and it's still constantly changing. But I really have I have four different ways of evaluating tools at this point in time. Number one is this tool going to grow my business? In other words, by demoing it, by seeing this tool, is it clear? Is it obvious that as a result of having this platform, I'm going to do more deals, I'm going to see more revenue, I'm going to increase the bottom line of my business, right? That's number one, because the days of vendors and tools just saying, hey, we're going to save you time, we're going to make your life more convenient, those days are done, right? In the beginning, that was really interesting. But nowadays, a lot of the general purpose tools like Claude and ChatGPT and Grok and Gemini, et cetera, they could accomplish that, right? So any commercial real estate AI specific tool, like I need to see that if I'm going to pay for this tool, if I'm going to get onboarded to this tool, if I'm going to spend the time and make the investment into this tool, I need to see that by having it, my business will grow. So that's really step one. That creates a very short list of tools in itself, just that one question. And there's really three other things I'm considering. Number two is there proprietary data involved, right? Like at the end of the day, there's only a handful of defensible moats, I believe, today, right? Number one is proprietary data. That is obviously very hard for general models like Claude and Chat to access and get their hands on, right? They can get a lot of the public stuff, but the proprietary data sets, that's very hard to replicate. Okay, so if there's a tool that has a large proprietary data set, that's interesting, right? That's very hard to replicate. So that's number two of what I'm looking at. Number three is how easy is it to get on and off the platform, right? I think in the age of AI, even just a week is 100 years, just with how quickly things are moving, right? So what might be best in class this week is maybe not next week. And so I think the tools that require you to sign long-term contracts or have a very long and tedious onboarding process that, hey, it's going to take a month and we got to get all your stuff onto our system sort of thing. And they make your life very difficult to get on and off the platform.
Yeah,
it's a bit of a red flag to me, right? Because I need to be agile and pivot somewhat. And that's at the individual level. Enterprise is a little bit different. That's a separate conversation, but that's something I'm thinking about quite often. And the last thing, and I'll shut up just after this, is what's their pricing system look like? I think a lot of people are getting subscription fatigue, right? Consumers are getting tapped out quite a bit, and a lot of these platforms that allow you to sort of pay as you go or credit-based or usage-based, right, where I'm going to pay for it as needed, That's something I think is really interesting and that's resonating with a lot of people nowadays. Versus, hey, you're going to pay $200 a month, like all these other SaaS platforms. Like those are really the four things I'm really thinking about when I'm trying all these different tools.
Yeah. And you decided to build a collective, not like a product or a consultancy, right? So you're kind of like, I guess the idea that at least at this point is to share some of these findings. Do you see that as an enduring model? Ultimately, will Prince Street, where Rob worked, want to share with other developers some tool that they've developed that's really helping them be good at what they do?
Yeah, it's a good point. The collective's definitely a collaborative environment. It's give before you take. That doesn't always work for everyone. I think as we head towards super intelligence, there's no secrets anymore. Data is and information is a commodity, right?
That sounds both exciting and scary at the same time.
Yeah, but I think sure, like there's always going to be an edge. Real estate's starting to become a very efficient market, right? And finding alpha is becoming more and more difficult. I think with this technology, it's going to be even more difficult as it just continues to grow and become more powerful. A quick example: there's a land acquisition platform or prospecting platform specifically for residential and multifamily developers, and this was just something I was thinking about the other day. But there are a ton of publicly traded home builders on there. Right. And like in the home building industry, it's interesting. There's a lot of consolidation happening. So more and more private builders are getting pushed out. And there's less and less builders, right? Like D.R. Horton is a massive company. And Lennar, like they're building, I don't know, 200,000 homes a year. It's ridiculous. And so they're going to do more and more. But point is that you're having a lot of these public builders join this platform. And I got to thinking about, well, if everyone's on this platform and looking at the same data and utilizing the same tools, like where is the value? Where's the alpha that's going to that needs to be created, right? So it's definitely something to think about. But yeah, look, for some people, if they don't want to share what's working for them, that's totally great. Maybe the collective's not the right place for them. But I generally find in this business, right, real estate being a relationship business, you give before you take, you share with others, like that'll generally pay dividends for you in this business. It's been my experience.
Well, at the time we're in right now, too, it occurs to me like the open source nature of the LLM tools just in general, in its infancy, really, like we're talking a few years in, it's really the right way to think about it. Like everybody's learning on the fly and then how you sort of apply seasoned wisdom and value that you've aggregated over your career in the business and then tailor the tools and the usage of those tools is really where the secret sauce is. I'm curious, Jake, of those 600 tools, I mean, I just have my own things that I've been experimenting with. How many have passed the test? I mean, like if in the world of evolution, I mean, even the image creator in chat is so much better now than it was 6 months ago. Of those 600, some of these things are obsolete already. Like, what would you handicap those that are going to live a long life?
Yeah, look, I could probably count them on my two hands, how many tools really passed that smell test. But we're starting to see a lot more interesting platforms out there. I can name a bunch of names, but maybe we'll get into the specifics as we go here. But I think a really interesting concept, which not that you touched on directly, Rob, but you got me thinking about as you just said that was around proprietary data, and we touched on it a little bit ago. But I think all of us who have been in the business for some time now, what we don't realize is that we're sitting on a gold mine of data, right? In our emails, right? Imagine being in the business for 30 years and all the LOIs you put out, the deals you've underwritten, the conversations you've had, right? Like imagine being able to unlock that data. And so, to the point about like the collective and not necessarily collaborating, like, there is tremendous alpha from just being able to access your own proprietary data set. And so, I've been super excited about the idea of like tools and technology and AI where it's not necessarily overhauling or replacing the things we do, but just sort of meeting us where we already are, right? And if like we're underwriting in Excel, like what are the tools that just allow us to do that much better, right? And like the fact that we have this data that nobody really uses, right? Like what are the tools and capabilities that allow us to really unlock that data and use it? So, you know, the other thing to just think about with all this stuff, right, is like, you know, what are the tools that could just 10x our existing capabilities? If you're a broker and you're making cold calls, what are the tools that allow you to make 100 more cold calls and 100 better calls, right? And like if you're preparing marketing materials, like what are the tools that allow you to just create more marketing materials and better ones? Not just like, hey, we're going to overhaul your whole process, which you've been, you know, iterating on over the last 30 years and that works for you specifically. Like, no. So, anyways, there's a lot to kind of discuss and get into with these tools. There's only really a handful I've seen which I think deliver really meaningful ROI of that list. But that list continues to grow each and every single day. It's almost like I'm adding 5 to 10 new ones like every single week. It's crazy.
I'm really curious. There's so much. The data is really the underpinning this whole concept. Like data makes all of us better, faster, stronger. When we're prospecting and ultimately offering, we ultimately want to make sure that we're offering enough to get the property, right? Like if we have a vision of doing something there, we want to have the most compelling offer. And so much of that offer, if you can remove layers of friction or layers of conservatism out of it through how you slice and dice data internally, that's beautiful, right? So one of the things that, you know, I can start to see, you know, and again, I have the bias as somebody that's in development and has a background in practicing architecture, is like at that point in the food chain where we're ideating, understanding, testing, whether you're automating those tests, whether you're using a program like TestFit or something like that just to come up with feasibility, or you're sort of, I've been there and done that as a designer, I know how to do this and know how it works, so I'm going to create the tools. Harnessing the data in the language that's going to feed in underwriting is critical, right? So there's size, shape, zoning impact, how you calculate it, and then ultimately how that finds its way into whatever analytical tools, Excel or otherwise, that you're using. So how much are you seeing AI and the stuff that you've tested start to plug in, not just from the prospecting standpoint, but start to live layers of life as you move through the continuum of the process?
Yeah, it's shown up everywhere, really. So to your point around feasibility, TestFit's a great example. There's also Prophetic. There's GoDirt.ai. Prophetic, for example, can create preliminary track maps, which is incredible, right? And some of the deals we've gotten into that we're doing our due diligence, and we got to get with the city and submit a preliminary site concept, just, you know, for them to understand what we're trying to do. That's $10,000, maybe less, I don't know. And several weeks of time. And so a tool like Prophetic, which just does an incredible job aggregating data, where it doesn't matter if it's like the most triangular, weirdly shaped lot with like a river that runs through the middle. Like you can.
Are there any other sites left that aren't that?
America's a big place, but yeah, it's probably in the middle of nowhere. But no, I think that's tremendously valuable, right? Being able to put together a yield study like that, get a sense of, you know, how many lots we could build, the traditional sort of development standards, like that's low-hanging fruit. Like there's a ton of sites just like that. And then if you want to get more granular with just a lot of the site elements, and like, you know, what are some of the environmental constraints, and like what sort of protected species are on this site, even, like that's how granular like some of these platforms are getting in doing the feasibility. And so yeah, we're starting to see AI really deliver meaningful, like ROI in every area of the stack, right? I mean, just like in brokerage alone, a concept I've been interested in is really how do we compress the timeline of closing these deals? And so traditionally it was you sourcing it and prospecting, and then you find someone who maybe wants to get a BOV, a broker opinion of value for their property. They're going to send you financials. You deliver that BOV. You set the meeting. You have a meeting with them, right? And then you hopefully goes well. You draft the listing agreement. You send the listing agreement. Then you create an OM, and then you run a really comprehensive marketing process, and you collect offers, and et cetera, right? It's never ending. When you look at like each of those areas, there's technology available today, which allows you to really just do that much better and be able to compress the timeline. So, right, for example, like BOV materials, marketing materials, like even Claude, though it's not purpose built for that exact stuff, like can create very professional looking BOVs and marketing materials. And so traditionally where you'd have either an internal graphic designer or marketing person, or you outsource it, like that could take 3-4 days, if not even more. And so with Claude, you can compress that to call it a day. And then your listing agreements, right? Like there's real estate legal AI capabilities that are out there today. And so attorneys oftentimes drag this stuff out. And I'm not saying ever that AI is going to replace attorneys, just to be clear. In fact, you should always, with binding contracts where there's millions of dollars involved, use an attorney, guys. But perhaps instead of the traditional real estate attorney spending 10 hours at $800 an hour, with AI, you could do 5 hours at $800 an hour. And so there's some time savings and money savings there. And then with the OM, same thing, right? And so you look at like each kind of phase of doing these deals, and in every area involved, there's just really, really incredible things you could do with AI today.
Jake, in the collective, it seems based on what you're saying, it's mainly folks in the sort of brokerage, development, kind of in the community, kind of on the development side, owner side, right? Are you seeing folks from cities and counties enter the collective and kind of try to understand how they can use some of these tools? I mean, it seems to me that, let's say in permitting, for instance, right? This is a tool that makes so much sense, right? Where you can just cut all this time and cut out months of review and whatever into maybe hours, right? Wishful thinking perhaps, but I'm curious also if you're getting those folks into the group.
Yeah. Look, bureaucrats are generally pretty difficult to work with. I'm sure we'd all agree. And I think they want to know about this technology. They even want to utilize it, but their process of actually doing that, I think, is really, really nuanced and difficult. But we've seen a lot of platforms in that space, some of which are targeting the private market, right? So developers that are going through that permitting process with bureaucrats. And then we've seen a couple of platforms very recently, actually, that are taking the opposite approach and targeting the cities and the bureaucrats, which, kudos to them. I think that's really high risk, high reward, right? Nobody's really been able to crack that nut at all, and I'm sure we could all agree why. It's just incredibly difficult and a nuanced process. But yeah, there's been a lot of AI plan checkers, call it, right, where you can submit a set of construction documents. AI is going to look at any sort of coordination issues, constructability issues, administrative issues, right, and ideally catch that stuff before it gets to the city, because I'm sure we've all seen it ourselves here. You could submit a set of plans to the city, and they'll get you with the gotchas on really just basic administrative stuff. And by the time they actually catch that, it's already 2 weeks submitted. Then they resubmit it to you after a week. Next thing you know, that's 3 weeks. Then you got to send it back to your architect, and Rob in this case, right? And then he's going to make some changes, and maybe the engineer needs to get involved. And so that's another, call it, week or two. And by this time, you're 5 weeks delayed, and you got carry cost at $30,000 a month. So time is money, right? And so I think I'm actually particularly really interested in the permitting and entitlement space. I think a lot of people are, just because it's so drastically needed to improve that process, right? It should not take, in some cases, 3 years to get some of these projects approved at all. And so I think AI is going to play a really meaningful role there. But like I said, recently there's been a couple AI plan checkers that have been targeting the city side of things, and that sales cycle for them to actually get on board, I can imagine is 3-4 months, right? Just that chain of command. So, and at the same time too, you're going to find plan checkers and those in Los Angeles are very different than plan checkers and those in like Victorville per se, right? And the inspectors and plan checkers over there are a lot of the old school, maybe former contractors or builders in that market. They like to do things a certain way. They like to lay the set of plans out on that table and take their sweet time and mark it up with pen and paper, whatever, right? And so getting someone like that on board with this new technology and these new systems is incredibly difficult. So, there's challenges there, but I think there's also tremendous opportunity, massive amounts of opportunity to find some efficiencies there.
Jake, you've hit on something like really, really important in this entire conversation, in my opinion, and it's the administration of the let's say the data you get out of an LLM, right? Whatever the backbone is of that plan checker, that code checker. One of the things that people have a misunderstanding of is that the building code is an empirical document. It's not. It's an interpretive document, right? It's a sort of, there are aspects of it that are empirical, but there is also lots of gray, and that's really where the nuance comes in, is how you interpret that gray area. And so thinking about all of the kind of lives that AI can live, even going back to the Claude generated, I can spot a Claude generated OM a mile away because it mixes fonts in a particular way right now that's just happening because that's what's in its mind, and nothing replaces experience. The guy that rolls out the set of drawings built many, many buildings, and that's beautiful. AI has a little over half of human intelligence at this point, 60%. So we still have a ways to go until it's probably as smart as that individual, or that experience as that individual. So when you think about the future and the going forward, we think about the construction and constitution of the workforce in commercial real estate. Now that's all the channel partners in commercial real estate: brokers, analysts, architects, designers, whatever, you name it, plan checkers, all the way down the chain. The experience and the wisdom of someone that has tread the territory that's being evaluated, has done deals, has underwritten deals, has acquired properties, has built and made mistakes and learned. How do we train the next and youngest generation using these tools to be able to discern fact from fiction with what they see? Because just from the standpoint of having recently been in practice, that's one thing that I see now that I'm on the client side is that if you've got wisdom and experience, this is an exciting time to be alive because of the speed that you can get. If you know how to ask the right questions and prompt the right way, you can really, really collapse time and space. But for the youngsters that are just getting going in their careers and they haven't had the ability to see or learn yet, how do we use these tools and how do we assemble a workforce that feeds that experience out in the physical reality of what we do back into the workforce, so that it's not just what you see is what you get and it's therefore fact because it's on my screen. This is the single biggest issue I think we need to keep our minds on as we apply these tools and with excitement and move on in our careers. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, well, I think not enough people are talking about that, and I'm personally very concerned about the next generation. And AI is really a multiplier, so the same way it's going to enhance someone like yourself, Rob, who's been an architect for 30 years, and just allow you to be a superhuman architect, right? It's going to multiply stupidity at the same time and a lack of understanding the same way, right? So we've been working pretty closely with a handful of universities. I talk with a lot of students. In fact, students get a discount to join our group. And so,
Genius.
even just yesterday, I was talking with a student out of NYU, and he's an intern at a retail development shop, and he's been tasked with just learning and trying to implement AI for the organization. And I said to him straight up, like, you need to understand the fundamentals of these deals. There's no shortcut from AI. Like, if you don't understand the fundamentals, if you don't know how a 5-year pro forma for retail deals work, or if you don't know the difference between a triple net or a gross lease, like, these are all just things you need to know, then you're in deep, what, like, that's just the reality, right? So I just said, AI is going to allow you to get to the wrong answer just much faster if you don't understand how all this stuff works, and that's the truth, right? So I'm not sure there's like a perfect answer or solution for that problem, but without a doubt, I am very concerned about that, and I think that students and professors and the programs and those that are really responsible for kind of taking the next generation and helping them get into the workforce, like, they have a duty and a responsibility to ensure fundamentals get taught the right way, and that the right protocols and systems and things are in place which prevent their students from just looking at AI as the final answer, right? And so it's tough. I'm not sure what the perfect answer is, but I'm preaching this all the time when I'm talking with students.
Yeah, I think we're unfortunately still in the phase of a very large group of sort of AI deniers or AI non-practitioners. I don't know, who's just sort of like either fighting it or thinking that this is if we fight harder, it's not gonna be a job replacement kind of tool. But at the same time, there's a lot of young people coming through high school and college these days that have fully adopted these tools for all kinds of different things. They don't use search anymore, for instance. They just use an AI tool, right? And I think they're going to be so comfortable with this that I think, once that generation sort of becomes more prominent, I think in the workplace, I think these tools will probably proliferate a lot faster as well, right? I'm curious, Jake. Is there like one like really impressive sort of workflow that you've kind of seen, maybe sort of an anecdote from the collective that kind of makes you think of like, wow, that they've applied that in a way that I never either thought about, or that was a super sort of interesting kind of creative way to do that.
Yeah, there's no shortage of interesting use cases we've seen. In fact, like every week, we personally post 2 new ones for the collective, and we've done well over 300, if not even more. But yeah, we're also seeing some really interesting use cases from operators out there. In fact, recently, in the last couple of weeks, I was shown a demo of a proprietary internal platform that an 8,000 unit operator had built internally in a matter of months. And the whole idea is just this centralized, call it a command center, right? Where all of their data, all of their different tools, the software they've used, right? Juniper Square, Yardi, et cetera, it all gets consolidated in one location, which the whole company has access to. And so seeing that was pretty eye-opening and interesting to see. They built it entirely with one of the co-founders and then their CTO, and they had just rolled it out to the company. There's definitely going to be some challenges, I think, as they roll it out to the rest of the company, and there'll be some edge cases and stuff that needs to get fixed and broken and people resistant to it. So I'm going to stay in touch with them around this. But again, just having the idea of like one centralized location where you're not having to bounce through different interfaces or go here or there. It's all just in one location. I think that's incredibly powerful. And it also just, it kind of confirms my belief around real estate folks are builders by nature, and so I think what we're going to see a lot more of is exactly that, these groups building internally versus looking at traditional SaaS or prop tech, and some will succeed, some will fail. It's incredibly hard to do that, like incredibly hard to build that stuff and make it worthy in a production environment. But no doubt, I think there's going to be some serious efficiencies created by those organizations that have the resources and capabilities of building stuff internally and very specific to their needs. But like any other tech, like with any other technology, it's some will adopt it, some won't, some will do it really well, and some won't. So we're going to see a lot.
That's a good point, and I have a quick follow up on that, because I think you just mentioned something. You know, will this be a tool that institutional type folks, you know, will be able to sort of you know be even bigger, better, whatever, and it'll like really push the little guys down because they just don't have the resources to invest? Or does it become an equalizer? Does it become something that little guys can now apply and look like an institutional guy, right?
Well, I think it's both, right? To the point about multiplying, I think very capable and experienced individuals with this technology could become really, really powerful. Not to the point where it's like a one-man billion-dollar AUM shop by any means, like some people have drawn up, but to the point where they're able to really 10x what they already do. And so on the other side of the token is really just like lack of experience and non-capable individuals and those that kind of just go through the motions and such. Like it's going to make those people way worse off. So there's definitely going to be a divide there. And then at the institutional level, like we just saw Blackstone and BlackRock and the biggest companies in the world are partnering with Anthropic and OpenAI to build out internal tools at their portfolio companies and really implement this stuff versus looking to buy SaaS that's already readily available. So I think that speaks volumes, and there's no doubt. I mean, Blackstone's going to figure it out one way or another. They have endless amounts of money, and they could bring on the best people in the world, the best engineers out there to really make this happen. There's also going to be middle market shops and those that just don't have the resources like Blackstone that are going to try and make this happen, but maybe can't make it happen. And so, that gap will get wider, right? So, there's a lot of different things kind of happening at the same time. And sure, like I have a lot of theories about this stuff, but from what I've seen, even just in the last year, like nobody has a clue just what's going to happen with this technology. It's incredible, right? It's just so powerful. But at the same time, like I think like a lot of companies, a lot of folks out there are now starting to look at the numbers and see if the investment, the money, the time, the resources they're putting into this technology is actually yielding results for them, right? And so in some cases, like that's not happening, and who knows which direction they go in based on that data. But for anybody, there's a lot of false productivity that's happening with AI and with this technology, and people building tools and thinking, oh, this is saving me time or making me more money, when in reality it's not, and it's creating more work, and it's totally a distraction. And so you got to have KPIs set up. You got to have the ability to really measure these results, right? Things like, okay, lease abstract, for example, like how long did it take me to do it manually versus how long did it take me with AI, right? And maybe it wasn't accurate the first go around, and there's some human in the loop and review that needs to be done. So you got to factor in that time. But like being able to look at things that way and see, okay, by having this technology, by using it, right, is it going to deliver time savings for me? Is it going to allow me to make more money? And so you got to have a baseline. You got to have measurable data, because without the ability to measure it, you can't manage it. And so I think a lot of companies now are starting to wake up to this idea, like we're spending stupid amounts of money. Our employees are spending stupid amounts of time on using this technology. Are the numbers starting to show that it's worth it? So that's been a big change in just the last month alone, which is the right,
Yeah.
right?
You're tugging at a thread here that's really interesting, Jake. To me, it's like the sort of nature, small market, middle market, large market, institutional. Like I have my own observations on this, just in practical terms. When I was trained, I learned how to draw with a pencil. And so I've seen how computer assistive technologies has made our profession change and morph, maybe become more productive by some measures. Certainly can draw a lot more, whether it's worth drawing or not, I don't know, but you can definitely draw a lot more, a lot faster now in these tools. Now I'm saying you can produce sheets at infinitum, maybe you only need 10, but you do 100 just because you can. So one of the things that I found pretty interesting is that there's some good data out there just in the AI space of really small footprint companies. I mean, generating massive amounts of revenue per head, like just incredible revenue per employee. And that's even across compared to like 15 years of technology companies, which generates incredible amounts of revenue per head. I wonder, and I'm asking this from the standpoint of somebody that like lives in the center of the Silicon Valley. It's like, it's the Wild West here, always has been. Innovation is on every corner. It's alive and well in San Francisco, and I can tell you that. And where I sit in Menlo Park in my office, it's beautiful down there. It's like this moment right now where everybody's searching and hunting and prospecting. It's great. I have a hunch, and I'd be curious to get your take. If you see the middle market companies just evaporate, obviously the Blackstones of the world can pour serious dollars into figuring out a problem like this, but there's almost nothing better than the boiler room for a couple of people with a great idea that now have tools that make it easier to roll that idea out there. That I wonder if you start to see a real kind of binary formation in our industry where you have big institutional players and then you have just small, super high performing teams that use technology in ways to like really magnify their business in ways that they couldn't have previously. And the low overhead small shop that maybe has a little VC behind them can do things that, like middle-sized companies that are sort of stuck between overhead that's the size of the institution, but, not being able to be nimble like they were when they small. Those small teams can be really powerful now. How do you see this evolving in the CRE industry? Do you see, kind of a polarization in like the constitution and size of firms that operate in this space in any way?
Yeah, it's really interesting to think about. I've never been asked that question either. So thank you for it. I think that with any cycle, with any new technology, you got to adapt, right? And so companies are going to change the way they do things. They're going to try different things. At each level, I think there's a couple of things that could happen, right? They could look at AI as a way of reducing headcount and finding efficiencies there, or they could look at AI as sort of an enhancer and use it as more of a way to scale, right? So there's going to be a lot of companies like sort of going in different directions. I'm not sure what the right direction is at all. I think it's going to be different within each organization and within each vertical within commercial real estate. But I'm not sure that like it'll just be a middle market firm issue as much as it is just an issue for everybody, right? Like even at the individual level, like okay, the old school broker who still has his notepad with all of his contacts and stuff. Like if he doesn't adapt, what will happen to him, right? Or same case like with the middle market firm. If they don't adapt and really figure out a way to use this technology the right way, like what's going to happen to them? So it's going to happen at each layer. I think like there's a lot of decisions that need to happen. What I've seen though. Just speaking with so many different groups and C-suites and folks like in all different areas, that people are just lost and they're trying to figure out what to do. And so I had an interesting conversation not too long ago with the CEO of a national brokerage, and we got to talking about how they have all these safety protocols and systems in place where, you know, you have to work within the Microsoft ecosystem and you can't do this and you can't upload that and stuff. But at the end of the day, it's that their employees, they're going to self-serve one way or another, right? Like people are becoming so reliant on using these tools to do their job effectively. And so we got to talking about how you could really establish the right systems and infrastructure in place where your employees can self-serve, but do it in a way where it's not going to jeopardize the security of your organization, right? And just like we had both of us, right? This is the CEO of a $1 billion plus company. Like we were just like lost, right? Like sure, like there's this issue, but like we don't know how to ultimately solve for it. And so I think there's just so much uncertainty of like what to do, and like there's a lot of, excuse my language, shit that's being thrown at the wall. And you know, but just like every cycle and every new technology wave, it's like there's going to be groups that really figure it out, and there's going to be groups that don't, and that's going to happen at the individual level. That's going to happen at small shops, middle market shops, at the enterprise level even. I mean, we're seeing it time and time again. It's like with all of these data center developers, there's I forget the name of the company. Allbirds, right? I think they sold shoes, and now all of a sudden they pivoted. They're like this AI company. Like I'm not kidding when I tell you that almost every single day there is a company that's pivoting to a data center company, right? I just saw there was like a battery manufacturer that's now a data center developer. CBRE, for example, the biggest real estate company in the entire world, when you look at their critical infrastructures unit revenue or EBITDA, I think in 2021 it was 3% of total company EBITDA. Now it's over 14%. And so what that tells me is that literally the biggest company in the biggest real estate company in the world is like slowly becoming a data center company, somewhat, right? So there's just interesting things happening all around. To your point, to your question, we're going to see a lot of just displacement. We're going to see a lot of companies get pushed out. We're going to see a lot of companies you didn't think could really compete and keep up, be able to do so. But I think when you put this technology in the hands of A players, anything's possible.
As we close our conversation here, I have a couple of last questions I want to ask Jake, and I'll let Rob kind of close with his final comment too. Where are you hearing the biggest kind of pushback? What are people saying in the industry where they're like, you know, yeah, this can't work here, or this doesn't do a good job here? Where's that coming from?
A lot of the old school real estate operators just naturally push back, as they always have been, right? Like my dad, for example, just textbook production home builder. He still uses his manual calculator in his office to do numbers and stuff, and he has a spreadsheet, and it works for him. And so, you know, the other day though, I finally I got him to use AI for something interesting as a shopping center, and there's a lot of vagrants and these vendors that set up their tents, and they sell like food, and they use his water, and they leave trash all over the place. And so he's working with the city now on a concept of like building a fence and stuff. So he came into the office. He said, "Hey, I need you to draft up an image for me. I want, you know, a 5-foot wrought iron fence. I want 2 feet of decomposed granite, and I want it right here on this property." So I was like, "All right, like check this out. I'm going to show you how to do this." And so we used ChatGPT's image model to put that together. He couldn't believe it. Next thing you know, he submitted it to the city, and like that's the concept they're going to move forward with, and the city's going to pay for it. And so you know, oftentimes it just takes a conversion event for haters or non-AI believers to just see what's possible. But you really got to show them like where the time savings are, like where the ROI is. And oftentimes it's in the boring, less sexy stuff, right? Just like that. And so the mistake a lot of people make is they try and AI everything. They shoot for the stars and the moon, and like that's a big mistake. I want to build these agents and just replace my whole business and have it do all these incredible things for me. Like that is just so far from reality. Like stop, right? So, but we see haters everywhere. I have friends in commercial real estate who are just like, "Oh my God, I use Claude, and like it told me just what I wanted to hear, and it wasn't helpful. And one friend specifically, like we went to coffee, and I took out my computer and we rebuilt his whole website for his company right there at the coffee shop, which was so much better than the current website he had. Next thing you know, he's not an AI hater anymore. And so it's just those conversion events where they could see with their own eyes that, oh my God, like there's so much that's possible with this stuff. And like, I need to figure this out. But it's hard work. It is really hard work to implement this stuff and do it in a meaningful way. It is so incredibly difficult, which people don't realize. And so they oftentimes just expect perfection without really giving it the time investment that it needs. And that's where they fall flat. So
yeah, 100%. When people push back to me, I usually say, which model are you using? And sometimes you look at me kind of like with this, puzzling face. And I've noticed just in the last sort of 4 months, I think it was late last year when, Claude went from like, whatever the, model was to like Opus, whatever, 2, 3. Now it's like 4.7 or whatever it is, 4.8. The differences are so vast. Right. Well, I tell people like, yeah, it used to do that like 6 months ago or 7 months ago, but like the models have improved really, really a lot. And just in the last, I would say 3-4 months from what they've released. My final question for you is: so you've seen your collective grow over the last year or so. If we pick up a phone and talk to you, 12, 18 months from now, where do you think? How big do you think the group's going to be?
Well, so the group is just one aspect of our business. In a way, I almost consider ourselves like media, but not media the way that you guys are, or like some of these other groups are. But we just hope to be the source of truth, like at the intersection point of this stuff, right? The collective in the community is a great place for anyone who's just curious about this stuff, who wants to see how others are using it, who wants to learn, who wants to see prompts, workflows, all the different tools, and really just be in the loop and up to date on all this stuff. But we also do workshops, right, with really curated groups and where we get granular with a specific topic. So that's been great. And cohorts. We just signed up our first national brokerage to do a cohort where we're going to get together with their Dallas industrial team and over 4 weeks just get laser focused around training. And so that's exciting. And we have a podcast ourselves, and we do webinars. And so there's so much that we're doing and what we want to do, and at the same time struggling to just kind of not really veer out into so many different directions. But I think the best way to describe it is just we really just want to be the place, the ecosystem, the hub, where all this stuff kind of intersects. And so if you're a student and you want to get a job in prop tech, right, you can come to us. Or if you're a founder building prop tech or commercial real estate AI, you come to us. If you want to learn about how to use AI in commercial real estate, right, you come to us. If you want to stay up to date on the new data centers and which states are regulating these data centers and which new prop tech companies are raising money and how are other operators using this stuff and all the interesting ins and outs of AI and technology specifically for commercial real estate, we want to be that place.
Rob, I'm going to have you close the conversation here.
First of all, I want to say your dad sounds awesome. So
he's awesome. He really is awesome.
If he had these tools when he got going,
oh my goodness,
12,000 homes, not 6,000 homes, right? So
exactly.
Props to him.
Yeah,
and you for taking him along for the ride. That's beautiful. So I want to ask you a question about posterity. So we are, by all accounts, if you look at all the tenants in the market sheets, at least from where I'm at in the Bay Area, everything's going great. We're at the start of a new cycle. Who knows how long it runs? It's a good time, let's just say. So think of all of the grads in like MRED programs or MBA programs that are coming out right now with a focus in real estate. It's the start of a good time. What do they do to differentiate? How do they use AI to raise their prospects of finding the best first gig? How do they think about it? What should they do? What's your advice to them?
Yeah, look, AI is the hottest topic in the world right now. And so if you could be the person at that company where people go and ask questions to for AI, like I think that's one of the most valuable people at any organization, right? So the more you know about this stuff, the more you understand just practical implementation of this stuff, I think the more valuable you become, right? If you're at any company that's hiring right now, if it's not already as part of their interview questions, it certainly will be, right? How are you using AI? Like, I'm sure that's the first question a lot of these groups are asking. And so those that are an undergrad or part of these MRED programs, whatever it is, any student, just be the person, be the AI person at your firm right now. Like you need to be. And so that's sort of a loaded kind of generalization, but you know, if someone has a question about, hey, how could I use AI for bid leveling these general contractor bids, right? Like you want them to come to you, and you want to be able to show them in real time, like how to do it quickly, how to do it accurately, and how to do it in a way which like others could do. So, and there's a lot that you could do with that. You know, step one, join the group. I think just not even try to be biased. It's like really an incredible place for anyone who just wants to stay in front of all this stuff. But that's my thinking, is just you want to be the AI person at any company right now.
And Jake, as we close here, where can people find you? Tell us where to go.
Yeah, so super active on LinkedIn. Jake Heller, check me out. Post daily, except Sundays. My wife doesn't allow me to. AI4CREcollective.com, main website. The community's on a platform called School. We have a YouTube channel, AI for CRE Collective. We're across all social media, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, well, X, formerly Twitter. But super active on LinkedIn, and then website, AI4CREcollective.com.
Yeah, and just really quickly, when people land on your LinkedIn page, they're going to see what?
They are going to see a lot of interesting takes on AI and commercial real estate. You're going to see a lot of daily news. You're going to see use cases, different workflows. You're going to see different demos of different tools and all that good stuff. So definitely a great starting point for anyone who just wants to get a taste. And then if you want more, like that's where people go into the community.
Wonderful. Awesome. Jake, so good to have you on our podcast. Thanks for taking the time. Rob, always good to see you. We'll see you guys soon.
Thanks for having me.
This was a great conversation. Thanks again, Jake. Really appreciate you making the time. Vlad, always a pleasure, my man.
Thanks, guys.
All right, take care. Have a great day.